So let's talk about coaching. So let's talk about coaching. So what are individual leaders coming to you about when it comes to coaching leadership for themselves?
That's a good question. They're coming for the same reasons as they come to us for the collective, but really once they realize that at the collective level or in their organizational level they need to up their game, then they know as individuals they have to do some transformational change. So they have to become more aware of themselves. How am I leading right now? What are the things that are maybe roadblocks for me? What are blind spots that I have? And what are the strengths that I have that I could leverage maybe differently than I am now? But how do I actually move forward and be the leader in these complex times?
One of the things we found useful for this is the 360-degree assessment. So we work with one of those tools called the Leadership Circle. We also work with another assessment called the Electric Assessment, which is more of an assessment of their skill levels. Both of these things help leaders to see, maybe with a bit of a new lens on their leadership, what they are doing that people appreciate, and maybe where there's an edge that they can develop a little bit more as well. And so when they have a new way of looking at something, it actually helps them to see more possibilities for themselves.
Yeah.
So we really believe that that's how a leader shifts their development, is by actually beginning to see themselves and their organizations with new eyes. So it's a developmental shift that will help the organization change its results and change perhaps also the relationships that the leaders have within the organizations as well.
And leaders always pride themselves on what they do, but we really help them to look at their way of being. So who are they and how do I bring humanity back into my leadership? So the relational piece is there's definitely more than what they do. And how do I engage, as Donna said, with the relationships, the emotional intelligence, the relational intelligence, the ability to have that interpersonal care. But leaders need to care about the people they work with. They need to show them that they care as well. So that's one of the things we help them to look at it. For some people, it's a bit of a leap to think about how do I bring my vulnerabilities into a leadership? How do I bring my whole self into leadership? And is it okay to share like, oh, I screwed up on something? That's really like, can I admit that I made a mistake? Can I be okay with not knowing the answer to everything?
And just the practical things of the amount of hours that people in C-suite are working. Like a lot of folks need to have conversations around how they're going to take better care of themselves before they have a crisis of some sort. So there's balance and healthiness in their lives and in their heart. So being happy with what they're doing as well is very important. And I think that the possibilities for them to learn new practices that they can become part of their day-to-day. Not something they have to go away on a big retreat to do. How can they just learn to pause more in the day-to-day and just get out for a walk for 5 minutes. It may sound simple, but it's hard sometimes for people to walk away from that C-suite and get outside. So we try to bring that more possibilities of being a whole person, as you said, the vulnerability back together with them. And I think for the most part, we're pretty direct with our clients. They need someone to talk to. When you're alone at the C-suite level, you can share some of your vulnerabilities when you're learning with someone. So a coach could be that thinking partner, person who holds them in care, or we sometimes say we actually hold our clients in love. So we coach with love, and we actually coach with quite clear boundaries as well, and clear feedback to them in terms of how they're being received. So it's a very unique and privileged relationship to have with someone when they come to you to be a coach.
And one of the things that's most interesting is what most people need to learn most is about listening more. Less talking, more listening. So, and if that's all they did was, we use the metaphor, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen more than you speak. And then leveraging those strengths, as we said earlier, is that you're not the doer anymore, but how do you mentor and develop others And it requires the leader to start to feel comfortable with maybe things won't go exactly the way they would do it, or that might not have been the solution I looked for. But they have to be okay a bit with failure, and not to be beating people up if they made a mistake, but to use them all as learning opportunities. And that takes people stepping back, taking a breath, and really looking at what other perspectives do you have to look at, and what makes it, how might you be wrong in this situation?